be the one who was quiet, the most interested person in the room, not the most interesting person in the room. It's going to be the pillars of influence, presence, consistency, and being vulnerability. When we lead with influence, we make a bigger impact on our organizations. If you know somebody that is looking to get into leadership, maybe that is looking to grow their business as a small business owners, these are going to be tactics that you can use. These 4 pillars, write them down. Remember, true leaders inspire, through respect, through integrity, not status. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to the episode today, and it's another season opener. We are opening season 17, and this season's gonna all be about leading quietly, those quiet giants within organizations, within teams. Maybe you're one. I used to think that leaders had to always be the ones talking. I used to think that business owners always had to have the answers to every single problem. And guess what? I was wrong. I was so wrong that I thought if you were quiet, if somebody was curious, if somebody was sitting back in the boardroom or trying to engage and soak in all the information and question people, that was bad. That was bad leadership. And, I got to the point where in my leadership journey, I finally had to realize that our most powerful leadership move was a lot of the times simply to not be in the spotlight, simply to be the one who was quiet, the most interested person in the room, not the most interesting person in the room. So in this season, we're going to talk about 4 pillars, and it's going to be the pillars of influence, presence, consistency, and being vulnerability. And for the most part, those 4 pillars have proven in my leadership journey and with the organizations that I have worked with to be valuable in establishing not only trust, but for the most part, engagement. I have found that leaders who lead with influence over authority see up to a 20% more engagement within their organizations. Now, wait a minute. If I were to ask you, as the leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, if you could get 20% more engagement out of your team, your employees, what would you say? I know I would say, heck yes. So that's why we're going to dedicate this season to those quiet giants, those leaders that aren't the ones out front. They're the ones behind. They aren't the ones in the spotlight, taking all the glory or, boasting about how they accomplished or they led whatever effort or whatever project. They're the ones that are sitting back, allowing their employees, their teams to have the glory. And then if something goes wrong, they're willing to step up and take the blame. So I'm going to quickly go over the 4 pillars that we're going to talk about. We will have an episode to 2 episodes on every single one of these pillars. So you're going to do me a favor and click on that subscribe button. What that does is it tells YouTube that you're engaged, you want to hear more, and it also tells YouTube to get this out to as many people that are like us, as many people that are like you as a small business owner, just looking for advice, just looking for ways to better your business. For you as leaders out there, looking to increase the engagement in your team, looking to increase your influence when it comes to how you lead your organizations. And that could be one person, or it could be 200 people. It doesn't matter. As leaders, when we lead with influence, we make a bigger impact on our organizations. And if we decide to scale, not everybody's looking to grow their business. I get it. But when you're ready, you've established that culture. You've established those behaviors as a leader. So now it's just simply putting out a job announcement. It's just simply, making sure that people fit into that culture that you've established. So many times leaders talk about, well, when I build a team, if I build a team, then I'll need to learn how to be a leader. Learn those things now. So share this video if you know somebody that is looking to get into leadership, maybe that is looking to grow their business as a small business owners, these are going to be tactics that you can use. These 4 pillars, write them down. Remember, influence, perseverance, consistency, and vulnerability. Those are the ones that we're going to discuss. So let's give a brief overview, a little teaser, so that way, if you're interested in any single one of these, you can listen to those episodes. The first one we're going to talk about is influence over authority. And here I mentioned that statistic earlier about the 20%. That's pretty big, 20% more engagement. And true leaders inspire, through respect, through integrity, not status. Too many times I see CEOs, I see business owners that hide behind the nameplate or the status, the CEO, the vice president, the president nameplate that's outside of their office. Status doesn't buy you respect. Status doesn't earn you influence. So again, when we talk about how leaders need to become curious, they need to be the most interested person at the boardroom table. They need to be the most interested person whenever they're having those one-on-one conversations. That is going to help you build that influence with your employees. Because again, when we talk about influence, the foundation of influence is trust. And trust doesn't happen overnight. We get to know people. Think about who you would trust to give the keys to your house, to give the keys to your car, whatever valuable asset that you have. Do you trust somebody enough to hand that over to them and know that they're going to treat it with as much respect as you would? That's trust. And when you build that trust in a relationship, that's where the influence comes in. So, we're going to talk about ways how to be truly curious. We're going to talk about ways about admitting we're wrong isn't a bad thing. When we take the blame for a poor decision, when we take the blame for maybe something that the team decided and we went along with, those are the things that are going to build influence. Those are the things that are going to help you as a leader have that trust, have the ability to really lead your team in a way that if you have never led with influence before, it's a game changer for you. So the first pillar, influence, big, takeaway there is to make sure that we establish that trust, and the byproduct of that is going to be our influence. Try it on. I want to take a quick break from the episode today to talk about a couple things. The first thing, less than 40% of our listeners are subscribed to our channel. You would be doing me a huge favor if you click on that subscribe button. It helps us grow our Go Be Great community and get this podcast out to as many people as we possibly can. The second thing, are you a small business owner that is drowning in the day-to-day operations? You're delegating tasks and you're still doing all the work. You're experiencing a high turnover. Maybe you don't have the systems and processes in place that you need to run a successful business. I invite you to go over to thejohnespinosa.com, fill out the form to see if you're the right fit. Now back to the episode. The second pillar. And today when I was journaling this morning, I love these season openers because it's a time for me to be creative. And so up here on my board, I was breaking down the season into the 4 pillars. And I do that because of the 4 weeks. I mean, my background in training, I take a big macro and then I break it into micro. So I start breaking it into topics, and then those topics become what we have as episodes. And the second one is leading through presence, not performance. So, this idea of a quiet leader, this calm confidence, have you ever ran across somebody that just has it? You don't know what it is. You're not quite sure what makes them that person that people are drawn to. They just have it. And it's that calm confidence that attracts people. And when I run into organizations that have a leader who has that calm confidence, they're not the ones out front. They're not the boisterous ones or the ones that have grand gestures. And, again, back to what I said earlier, being silent may be one of our most effective leadership tools. So we will talk about in this particular pillar how your presence in the room, your presence when you're in the office, your presence around others can be felt in ways where you're not the most boisterous person. You're not the one who's the overtalker. You're the one, again, who is sitting back and commands that calm confidence with your team, with your business, and with your organization. And I always go back. I had a leader one time who, she was great. She was very, what I would call stoic. She never really showed a lot of emotion, and she cared for people. She cared for her team, and you knew that right off the bat. But she never got real high as far as the emotional aptitude, and she was never really low. She was always just even keel, and it steadied everybody else, even in moments of crisis. So we're going to dig into why presence is a very important part of that quiet leadership and how we build influence. So that pillar, I'm very excited to dig into that with a couple episodes. The third one we're going to talk about is consistency over charisma. And again, this goes back to, as a leader, if we are consistent, if we consistently showing up on time, if we're consistently holding ourselves accountable, if we're consistent in our behavior, if we're consistent in the way that we speak, if we're consistent in the way that we back up what we say, this right here, dependable habits, again, back to trust. Think of your best friend. And this may be a good analogy. It may not be a good analogy, but my best friend is, again, somebody who is very dependable. I can call them up and I'm having a bad day, or maybe I'm going through just a rough spot in life. And they're the ones on the other side of the phone or FaceTime or, meet up that just sit there and listen. They don't judge. They don't offer any advice. They're just there. And I can depend on them. And those are the type of leaders that in crisis, when you're going through maybe a rough spot, when you have some challenges outside of the work environment, those are the leaders that are going to understand. They're the empathetic leaders. Those are the ones that are going to be consistent they can be stern. I'm not saying that they're soft and they give in all the time. They can be stern, but they're going to be consistent with that, how stern they are. They're going to be consistent with the discipline. They're going to be consistent with the way that they treat all the employees. They're not going to have favorites. They're not going to, maybe overburden somebody. They're going to be very consistent in the way that they act, in the way that they talk, and in the way that they behave. And the most charismatic leader I see as when they're on the high, they're on the high. Reminds me of the movie Wolf on Wall Street. When Leonardo DiCaprio would come in, he'd get on the desk, he'd rally the troops, right? Well, what happened when he was down, when they were losing money? He wasn't rallying the troops. He was in his office. That's an example of inconsistency where the leader is up and down. If you have a leader that's pretty steady in the way that they treat people and in the way that they behave on a day-to-day basis. Now, everybody has a bad day. I'm not saying you got to be a robot. We're not robots. We're human beings with feelings and real problems. But this idea of consistency over charisma is a pretty important pillar that we're going to dig into, because in building influence, consistency is going to win the long game. Consistency is going to get you across that marathon finish line, not the sprint finish line. And for most of our businesses, for most of our organizations, that's what we're looking for. We're looking to sustain and build those businesses, those organizations, our team. We're always looking forward, and consistency is going to be one of those key, really fundamental characteristics of leaders that's going to help us lead our teams to wherever we want to go, to wherever they want to go, to wherever our goals are, to meet our metrics and to meet, those things that we want to achieve in our own businesses and our teams. And then the last one that we're going to talk about, and I saved this one for last because when I use the word courage, I don't take that lightly. Courage is something that is instilled through hardship, that's instilled through somebody who has weathered storms, that has overcome challenges. Resilience is a word that always comes to mind when I use the word courage. In this sense, we're going to talk about courage and vulnerability. And those two words together, they can scare some people off. They scared me. I, again, thought I had to be stern and rigid and show no emotion, right? I was consistent in the way that I behaved. But when we talk about this courage, it's admitting when we're wrong. When you sit in a room with somebody who has all the answers, whether they're right, wrong, or indifferent, or doesn't really ask for input, but makes all the decisions, do you respect that individual? Do you consider that individual courageous? Or on the flip side of that is someone who asks for your input, admits they don't have all the answers, takes the time to gather and hear from everybody, and then make a decision for the best of the organization, for the best of the team. That's what I would consider courageous. That's what I would consider a leader who is vulnerable. So admitting when we don't know, admitting when we don't have the answer is one of the fastest ways to grow and strengthen our relationships with our team, with our peers, with our employees. And in this particular pillar, we're going to have some tough conversations. So again, you're going to want to stick around. These 4 pillars: influence, presence, consistency, vulnerability, are going to help you as a leader, as a business owner, grow your team, grow your influence, and allow you to be that quiet leader that just through their presence, that calm confidence, commands rooms and allows people to feel like they're part of something, moving towards whatever direction. So even the most difficult challenges can be overcame by following these 4 pillars. So again, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you're tuning in for the rest of this season. You're not going to want to miss the episodes on each one of these 4 pillars. I will give actionable strategies, as always, practical, very practical as far as the episodes are concerned, so that way you can start being a quiet leader sooner than later. I believe in you. Go be great. Talk to everyone later. Bye-bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor, click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.